Hello and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Junglist.
And I'm Bajo. This week, it's time to dispel those myths that gamers are overweight lardasses with an aversion to moving more than a metre from the couch, who've only broken a sweat once this year, and that was at the midnight launch of GTA, and whose most extreme sports injury was a slight callus to the thumb. This week, we're getting fit with Wii Fit.
Keep your motion steady as you work on your abs.
We'll be heading into the Australian Institute of Sport to see how games are improving the fitness and performance of our top athletes.
And we talked to Emmanuel Valdez, the Chief Creative Officer on the upcoming game, The Bourne Conspiracy.
We'll be powering up backwards compatible styles as we chart the history of this classic gaming device, and checking out the latest movie blockbuster to game port, Iron Man.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
Here's a clue. It's probably the silliest game to ever star an octopus in the leading role. Extra points if you can name a non-silly game that has an octopus in the leading role.
Speaking of silly, go read the news.
Good game!
Crytek, the developer of genre-leading first-person shooters Far Cry and Crysis, have recently announced that they will no longer make games exclusively for the PC. The president of Crytek, Servat Yurli, revealed that the company's future projects will now be developed on multiple platforms, including home consoles, and that the reason for the decision is the high incidence of game piracy on the PC platform. Mr. Yurli described piracy as the core problem facing PC gaming today, and also revealed that Crytek was suffering massive rates of gaming piracy, with Crysis in particular being one of the most pirated games in the world.
I'm working on it.
It seems as though the gaming fitness craze is about to hit its most ridiculous peak yet, with an American pole dancing supplies company announcing they plan to develop a pole dancing game for the Nintendo Wii. Peekaboo Pole Dancing have confirmed that the game is in the works and that they are aiming to develop the pole dancing equivalent of Guitar Hero, allowing gamers to experience the fun of being a barroom stripper from the comfort of their own lounge rooms. It is rumoured that the game will include a full-sized dancing pole, and it may even utilise the Wii Fit balance board as part of its control scheme. In esports news, Australia's own Sydney Underground finished top of the ladder at the Pan-Asia qualifying rounds of the Championship Gaming Series held in China. Sydney Underground faced off against pro teams from Singapore, Dubai, Malaysia, Korea and China in Counter-Strike Source, Forza Motorsport 2, FIFA 08 and Dead or Alive 4, and came out ahead of the pack, trouncing the competition in almost every event. In the final match alone, Sydney Underground set a CGS record for their 30 points to 8 win over Malaysia's Kuala Lumpur Taufan, the largest point margin in CGS history. Chinese team Wuhan Dragon also qualified for the CGS finals, and both teams will compete against the rest of the world in Los Angeles later in the year. Those of us who've seen the latest comic book action movie Iron Man may have walked away feeling more than satisfied, but was it just me, Joe, or was it a little light on the action?
Too right, Badge, and to sate your action appetite, the Iron Man game is here, out on every platform known to man, woman and Marklar. We reviewed the PS3 version.
The game follows the story of the movie and indeed assumes you've seen it. If you haven't, you're going to be feeling pretty lost here.
Yeah, it doesn't even explain why he's got the glowing chest, and that's pretty Iron Man 101.
There is additional dialogue, but other than Gwyneth's digitally enhanced cleavage, there's not really that much new here.
Most levels take the form of an open-world environment, allowing you to take out objectives in the order you see fit. There are also secondary objectives, such as helicopters firing missiles at you, which you don't have to take out, but they can get annoying.
This open-world style really suits what an Iron Man game should be. Hovering is as easy as half-pulling the left trigger, and it's pretty easy to get the hang of flying and targeting. You're also able to reroute power to different parts of your suit, such as life support and missiles, and this makes them more powerful.
You can't exactly die either. Instead, your suit will power down for a few seconds and then reboot. And that was cool with that badge. Add in the ability to upgrade your suit with shields and extra weapons, and you can see they've spent a lot of effort on making the Iron Man suit as cool as possible. Shame about the rest of the game.
Enemies come at you in waves and you can take them out by punching them or blasting them or initiating a quick time event, but that's basically just pushing the circle button as fast as you can, and after you've done this to tanks and choppers over 100 times, you really do get over it. And the game doesn't let up either. Missions just go on for too long and you just get completely sick of doing the same thing over and over again.
Bosses are unimaginative, such as the Super Chopper, or the one after it, the Super Tank. Later on, you do kind of have to think about how to take things out, like when the US sends in jets that are way too fast for you. But even here, it's not fun and it goes on way too long.
I did like the jets, Jung, but after the first level, it was pretty unexciting, and the opening cutscene does nothing to set it up at all. And when the flamethrower comes out, everyone just falls over. Come on.
Fans of the comic books, however, might be pleased to see that a few characters made it into the game that didn't make it into the movie, like Madame Mask, the Melter, and Titanium Man.
Well, let's wrap this up then, Jung, and I will point out that the roof door stairwell is locked.
It's the classic movie game mentality of just approaching it from a place of trying to get the likenesses right and the feel of the main character right. And yeah, some of it wasn't bad, like the targeting was okay and the flying was cool, but the foundation of a game needs to be a good idea, something that's fun to do. And unfortunately, the end result here is something I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I'm giving it 3 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, they kind of approached it like the Spider-Man games, and they must have thought that just moving around in this open world as Iron Man would be a fun act in itself. But even in Spider-Man, it was much more fluid and more detailed, and here the dialogue and the city's completely devoid of life really pale in comparison. I'm giving it 5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
Over the last 10 years, researchers have found that video game technologies can be used to enhance real-life sports performance. When applied to physical activities, game technology can give us a greater understanding of how our bodies work and why we make the decisions we do. So, instead of simply playing a video game for enjoyment, you can now play a game to test and train for upcoming on-field action. Pretty handy if you're a tennis player at match point or a pro fisherman aiming to hook a big catch. Almost any sport can benefit from enhancements, and athletes and coaches are looking to harness video game technologies to understand response times, strategic decisions, and heart rate response, to name a few. The Sports Science Division at the AIS has merged both film and video game technology to give their athletes the winning edge.
We're looking at enhancing skill and trying to enhance it and accelerate skill development. We also look a lot at how skill transfers from the training environment into the competitive environment. It's not much point having athletes who are superb at training, but you put them in the pressure type scenarios of competition and it all breaks down.
And that's an 8-second violation.
He's gone.
You could have a player that makes a fantastic, perfect pass, perfect kick, whatever it may be, but if it goes to the opposition, then it's not necessarily advantageous. So you need to be able to read the play, have that cognitive skill, the perception, as well as the technical skill as well.
So how do you combine those two things?
We'll remove players from the physical environment so that we can just have them focusing on the cognitive elements. So we might show them a particular scene in a volleyball game, for example, show it up to a certain point in time, freeze the image or remove it from screen entirely, and they've got to move the mouse, click somewhere on screen to indicate what their decision should be. So they're seated, so there's no additional physiological fatigue. These athletes do so much physical training. If we were to give them extra on-court stuff, then it becomes quite difficult.
What's involved with the basketball training?
We have two sort of types of basketball training. One is the seated in front of a TV, but we also have more lifelike, I guess you'd call it, more realistic footage that's projected in life-size dimensions.
Can I have a go?
Yeah, certainly.
All right.
Good luck.
So, Jung, this is a test designed to measure your decision making, and we're using basketball as the medium here.
All right, this is 3D. This is like the 3D cinema.
Basically, you'll see 5-on-5 scenario unfold in front of you. They'll pass the ball amongst themselves, but at a certain point in time, they'll pass that ball out. At that moment, slap the ball in your hands, and then you've got to imagine that it's live. So you become a part of the game. You read the game and make whatever decision you think is appropriate in the timing that's available there. we can stand back and monitor you and say, well, yes, he has made a pass here, and that is to the correct person, or you've made a shot and that's the correct option. We can also get a measure using a camera and filming you. We can go back later on and see just how quickly you responded to those decisions. Is that a pass?
To the person in the back?
Who had a defender on here? Yeah, that was an incorrect decision.
Do athletes enjoy this type of training?
I think so. It's very cognitively demanding, and as I've said before, we're purposely overloading those perceptual elements. So it can become quite taxing, even after say 10 or 15 minutes of doing this sort of training.
How have the results been so far?
The results have been great. There's a lot of research in journals that have shown that this type of training is beneficial. We've got some results here based on some of the training we've been using that have shown that it's improved performance. So it's improved their decision making, their ability to read the play and make a correct decision.
While elite sporting prowess is a gift, it seems that even the best players can use the virtual world to lift their game. And in today's competitive landscape, why not use every advantage possible?
Good game.
Time now to announce the first winner of a mentorship on the Good Game Game project, Office Wars. Zach Duff.
Zach is 21 and currently studying game design at Griffith University in Queensland, but he grew up in Tasmania.
Hey, I'm Zach Duff. I'm an artist and I'm really looking forward to going down to Melbourne to work on Office Wars.
He impressed the judges with his game idea NECA and some of the artwork that he sent in. Zach will be moving to Melbourne in August to start work at Infinite Interactive's art department. Zach, you've dinged up from student to protege. Congrats.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we asked you for your ideas and help in trying to come up with a name for the company in Office Wars and exactly what do they do as a business.
And out of the hundreds of great ideas, we've whittled it down to 3.
Omnicorp or Ubercorp or Wagglemax. And they make children's toys or electrical gadgets or everything.
So head to the forums and cast a vote for your pick.
Now to this week's task. We need your help in coming up with ideas for what you can actually do to the other employees in the Office Wars company as you climb the corporate ladder. It can be good old-fashioned, downright hard work and determination, or dirty sabotage.
Good game.
Emmanuel Valdez, thanks for joining us on Good Game.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you would have thought Jason Bourne is the ideal candidate for a video game. How come it's taken so long to gamerize it?
That's a good question. We asked the same thing when we were approached to actually make the game. The Jason Bourne character sort of defined what the new action hero is, and that's a huge challenge to take on. I think once we took on the challenge to actually make the game, I think we realized, okay, he's a bit of a complex character to really capture.
How many movies does the game span?
We've taken some of the key action moments and story elements from the Bourne identity, and that's the Bourne that we know, the Bourne, the amnesiac, the remorseful killer on the run. And we're actually telling a lot of original backstory through flashback missions of when Jason Bourne remembered when he was a Treadstone assassin.
Does it maintain this sort of pace throughout the whole game?
And this is a special level. This is an escape and evade sequence. So this is the Jason Bourne that we know. It's the Bourne on the run. When we started on the game, the first thing I did was contacted Jeff Amata, who is the fight coordinator and choreographer in the movies. He actually directed his stunt team during our mocap sessions. He worked with our animators and designers to actually develop the sort of look and feel. The challenge was because it happened so fast, how do we make players feel like they just took down 2 people and give them control at the same time? So in hand-to-hand combat through successful attacks, you build up your adrenaline. You actually have 3 tiers. Each tier will designate how many people Jason Bourne can take down at the same time. You can see we go into these quick action moments.
Game Jason doesn't look like Matt Damon, does he? Do you think this will disappoint some gamers?
I think a lot of players' expectations is to have Matt Damon as the character Jason Bourne in the game. And again, he's the visual representation of the Jason Bourne character from the books. But at the end of the day, our goal was to empower players to become Jason Bourne. So they had to feel like they could fight like him, they could shoot like him, they could drive like him. Putting that control under the player's thumbs so that really they felt like they were the perfect human weapon.
There has to be car chases. Tell me, have you blended a driving game with a shooter?
As a developer, it was really our first experience in doing a third-person action game, so it's a lot to take on. Just doing a great, deep fighting game experience and a shooting experience and blending the two mechanics was challenging enough. You do get to actually play Jason Bourne driving through the streets of Paris. It's a recreation and reimagination of the Paris chase scene in Paris.
Tell us about the camera work that went into the game.
Particularly with the second and third movie, it had a very distinctive camera style, which is now, it's really identifiable to the Bourne character. So we wanted to bring a lot of that to the game. We do give players the full control of the camera, and on top of that layer, camera AI, camera logic that went behind that. The direction of the team, really the vision for it was as if a cameraman was with Jason Bourne in the game. It's a third-person action game. What if there's a cameraman, kind of his hand over Jason Bourne's left shoulder, and he's following him in the action?
All right, well, Emmanuel, thanks for joining us on Good Game, man.
Well, thank you for having me.
Good game.
Good evening, viewers. You may have noticed the latest start for this evening's program due to the Hostman Memorial Service. ACA extend our most sincere condolences to both Gavin's family and those of his unfortunate victims. Bert Eastman here, reporting on the last legs of the presidential race that will decide who will be the new head of the save state. With only weeks left, the nation is in a buzz over who will be next to lead its people. Current polls show that the vote is split evenly between the major parties. Mishap earlier today for the two larger parties in their final addresses. A horrible accident for the Xbox candidate when he collapsed as questioning over the relevancy of his achievement point system heated up. Bad news for the Sony party as well, their candidate delivering a stark apology, claiming all his best policies would be arriving later this year. Fortunately, he was able to entertain his audience with some high-definition films. We now cut live to the Nintendo party's final statement.
Mr. Wii, what's your party's policies if you get into office?
Our policy remains as it always has. We build, you consume.
When questioned about their absence, the PC party said the conference clashed with their raid night. Up next, we cross to reporter Frank West, who is at the Willamette shopping mall reporting on the vicious zombie attacks and new winter fashion lines. Over to you, Frank.
Good game.
Whether it's a growth-inducing fungus or a dose of anti-poltergeist medication, power-ups have been a part of video game history for as long as most of us can remember. So much so that it's hard to say when and where these power boosters first appeared. It's a tough call, but we think the power-up revolution may have started with none other than that lovably round, yellow, pill-popping phasmophobe, Pac-Man. When it was released in mid-1980, Pac-Man was unlike anything we'd played before. Most arcade games of the era were concerned with shooting down invaders from the far-flung reaches of space. Pac-Man instead put you into a claustrophobic maze, set a gang of mischievous ghosts on your trail, and tasked you with chowing down on everything you could get your mouth around, including these. It's a power pellet, and if you ate one, this would happen. Power pellets were a temporary but powerful weapon in Pac-Man's eternal quest against Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, allowing him to devour the ghostly quartet with gusto and earn you big points while he was at it. 1 year later, and perhaps the second most important development in gaming power-ups made its debut. Donkey Kong was the game, and Mario's mallet was the power-up. As you climbed the steel girders to rescue a familiar kidnapped princess, the mallet provided temporary protection from the endless stream of barrels and fireballs attempting to thwart your ascent. It was a useful tool, not just for staying alive, but also for racking up huge point scores. The next big development in power-up technology was made in the shoot-'em-up genre with a little-known game called Vulgus. Setting down in early 1984, Capcom's Vulgus was a vertically scrolling sci-fi shooter that had you blasting alien scum with the help of a number of POW-shaped power-ups that increased the potency of your pews. Pew pew!
Today, Vulgus isn't as well known as it should be, and it's probably because of this. Soon after the game came out, Capcom released another vertical shooter, the World War II themed 1942. Not only was it a lot more fun than Vulgus, but it also had much more impressive power-ups. After collecting a few POWs, your tiny dogfighter could outgun practically anything that was thrown at it, although the game was still exceptionally hard. After Vulgus in 1942, any shooting game that didn't have power-ups immediately became obsolete, and within months, a new breed of power-up-fueled shooting games began to flood arcades and home consoles. Konami Z'gradius is probably the most well-known example of these. Released in 1985, Gradius was notable not only for its stunning array of powered-up weaponry, but also because it allowed the player to store collected power-ups and to choose which ones to deploy at any time. They also became prerequisite for other genres. After pioneering power-ups in Donkey Kong, Mario was added again in the Super Mario Bros. Series, producing some of the most memorable of all gaming enhancements. Throughout Mario's adventures, he discovered the rapid growth qualities of mushrooms, the warming embers of the fire flower, and he even discovered that raccoon tails can make you fly. Who would have guessed? Another Nintendo classic that reveled in power-ups was Metroid. In order to get anywhere in this sci-fi adventure, you had to collect a variety of power-ups that enhanced your bounty-hunting heroine's spacesuit, like ice beams, super jumps, and screw attacks. Only these power-ups weren't temporary. They stuck with you right to the end of the game, a unique feature when the game debuted in 1985. These days, power-ups can still be found in many different forms. Probably the most traditional use of them appears in the recent Super Mario Galaxy, where the princess-protecting plumber can fly, turn into a bouncing spring, or even a bumblebee to help make his way through the cosmos. But on the whole, temporary power-ups are slowly becoming a thing of the past, in favor of unlockable abilities that stick around for good once you've earned them. Games like Crackdown reward you with superhuman agility and weaponry as you progress through the game, while games like BioShock offer you power-ups on tap, as long as you've stored up enough ammo to fuel them. Power-ups have even made their way into contemporary online multiplayer games, with Halo 3's invisibility and overshield, and Call of Duty 4's perk system offering a new level of strategic depth. Whatever form they're in though, power-ups are one of the things that have made gaming great. And as the industry continues to evolve, we have a feeling that mushrooms, pack pellets, and pew-approving POW blocks will have a long and bright future ahead of them.
Good game.
Jung, you know how some games are fun as well as educational?
Are you talking about edutainment, Badger?
No, edutainment is so 2007. I'm talking about health-utainment. Let's get physical.
Wii Fit is Nintendo's latest game aimed at getting our hearts pumping and our limbs flailing. The game comes with a pressure board, which measures weight and balance.
The board itself is wireless and can take 150 kilograms. The game aims to inform you of your current fitness level to get you to set fitness goals and then jiggle you into your ideal body mass.
And jiggle you will. There's 4 categories with 40 training techniques designed to help you beat the bulge. Yoga focuses on breathing.
Try to keep your center of gravity within the yellow area. Try breathing in sync with the blue circle. Inhale as the blue circle shrinks. Exhale as the blue circle expands.
Muscle workouts tone those biceps.
Keep your motion steady as you work on your abs.
Aerobic exercises get the heart pumping. And balance games to make sure your body has a good center of gravity and correct posture.
But is it fun, Jung?
Well, the exercises are kind of visually uninteresting, but that's not really their goal. The minigames are very fun, and they can be quite challenging, too.
My favorite was the tightrope walking, but there's also skiing.
Faster, 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 faster. Come on.
A soccer dodgeball kind of game. And jogging, which can be done in 2-player.
Knees up.
There's also a table balance game, which I found particularly challenging, and more.
The exercises are there to make you exercise, and by being able to digitally track your progress, it kind of entices you to make your goal and then to keep on afterwards. You can have multiple profiles, and you can password protect your profile if you want to. As you progress through the game, you unlock more mini-games and advanced exercises.
Not all of the activities use the pressure pad, and some of them only have a limited interaction. You still need to have a level of discipline, though, to come back to this and get a routine going. It's also fairly easy to cheat. There are some health warnings here, so if you have a bad back, or if you're pregnant, or if you're, to quote the manual, not used to physical exercise, then you may want to see a doctor before playing this game.
There have been rumors on the internets that Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of this game as well as Mario and Zelda, is thinking of new ways to use the Wii pressure board, such as DS connectivity or something like that, but there's nothing in the pipeline yet. Final thoughts, Badge?
Now, I'm no gladiator, Jung, and when I booted this up, I saw that my physical age was 40, and that did make me sit up and take notice. And I can definitely see how this would appeal to some, but for me it felt more like a chore than an actual game, and I think you need to go into it knowing what you're getting. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's kind of hard to rate it efficiently when we've only had it for such a short time, but I think it definitely achieves what it set out to do. You can definitely see the benefit of someone that wants a structured exercise without going to a public gym. It's an innovative way to use a gaming console, and I think it'll broaden the spectrum of gaming. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
So gamers, did you guess the game for this week?
It was Peroneus, a nonsense simulator developed by Japanese game maker Konami and first released on the Nintendo Entertainment System 20 years ago.
Peroneus was a parody of Konami's popular arcade game Z'gradius, and it played just like its shoot-'em-up inspiration, although with an added touch of silliness.
As you controlled your penguin or octopus space fighter through the game, you'd have to contend with a giant pirate kitten and Easter Island stoneheads, using a variety of bizarre power-ups, including our favorite, the English gun.
Another one bites the dust, Junglist.
Next week, we'll be taking a look at the state of competitive esports in Australia, meeting some of our best players and top team managers.
Steven Spielberg is responsible for some of the most popular movies of all time, and now he's trying his hand at game design. But does Boom Blocks live up to expectations?
Plus some of the hardest games ever made, and we'll be playing with power, with one of the most useless gaming peripherals ever invented.
Don't forget to cast your votes and ideas for the Good Game Office Wars on the forums. Plus, you can also watch or download this or any other episode of Good Game from there as well.
Till next time, gamers, Junglist out.
Bajo out.